Hi, my name is K.Muller, and I wanted to share my testimony with you. So here it is. I spent many nights with my dad reading scripture, we'd sing songs, and then he took me to bed at night and prayed with me. And when I was 8 years old, I remember asking him, Dad, I really want to ask Jesus into my heart, and how do I do this? And so he ran and got my mom. He's like, Valerie, come here. We have to pray with Kayla. And so I've asked the Lord to come into my heart that night, and I really since then have sought after him, sought after Christ. And middle school and high school were difficult for me. I stood out as someone that was different. I was considered like the church girl or the perfect girl, and people would judge me before they got to know me, which is what made it so difficult. But, I had a really good mom who she'd be a sounding board for me at home, and she just like listened to my day, how to go, and then she'd give me advice on what to do, what not to do, and that was very helpful and vital in my growth. And so from high school, I decided to go to LSU for college. I was going to be a Golden Girl, and I just thought that was the coolest dream ever. And then I also wanted to be a news anchor, and so I pursued broadcast journalism. And the funny thing is that I pursued it. I don't remember asking the Lord, like, God, what do you think about this? I just remember going after it. And I was trying to make a name for myself. I worked really hard in school, and so I was pretty sure I'd get into my program, but I didn't. And I didn't get in 3 different times. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, God, I'm not really sure why, but just interesting to think I'm working hard, how come I'm not getting in? But a couple things that the Lord just showed me is that there are things that happened in my life that were really big then. That, I lived with a girl who's a Christian, and she was in girls ministry, and she had a lot to say about it and a lot to say about ministry, and it was very helpful to listen to her and bounce ideas and thoughts off of her. And that was the time I started journaling and really spending time with the Lord and seeking Him for myself. And then I also got asked to do hand motions with the student ministry at my church in Kenner. And so they also asked me to go on a trip with him, a mission trip, to do the hand motions. It was on that trip that I saw a brokenness among the students. I saw a need that needed to be met. And I knew the Lord wanted me to be in student ministry, but I didn't know how or why or when, was it now or was it going to be a couple of years? And so I just knew that I spent that night after our devotion. I saw them in tears. I spent that whole night just praying, God, show me the way, show me what you want. And so a couple months of prayer, and I just surrendered to ministry. And so I moved from LSU to UNO and finished up at UNO. But I also was going to volunteer at our church. And then they offered me a position on staff, which was pretty interesting because I had no credentials. I just loved the Lord, and so they were just willing to teach me along the way. And I really did. I learned a lot from people I worked underneath in student ministry. They taught me, how to lead meetings and how to talk with parents and how to lead the students to the Lord. And that was very important in my growth as well. And so as I served, there was a mom that came up to me about 2 years after serving, and she said, Kayla, I really want to work with the girls that you're working with, doing Bible studies with them. And she said, I want to do the Bible studies with you. And so I said, okay, sure, why not? And I let her in, and she did a great job leading the girls, and she's had a lot to add to the group. And we actually bonded and formed a friendship just from meeting and everything. And so in our time together, last year she came up to me and she said, Kayla, I'm going to work with you. The Lord keeps telling me that, but I don't know what we're going to do. So let's just be praying about it. And we prayed every Sunday after church about what the Lord was going to do through us for His glory. And it was from that prayer time that we figured out that God wanted to do girls ministry. And we didn't understand how that would work with student ministry, but we would just kind of expect Him to, figure out all the details for us and show us what He wanted. And so He did. And we actually have a girls ministry right now. We just started in January. It's called the Royal Tribe. And we meet every second and fourth Friday of the month. And what's been so cool about that is the little details that God's, He just worked out all of them along the way. And He's just showed Himself faithful. Well, some other things that have been going on is that in September, I took a full-time job, thinking that that's the route to go because I was chasing after money. And I thought I can compartmentalize ministry and work. But I think the Lord probably laughed about that because he knew he had bigger plans for me. And so, I pursued it and he's still using me at work, but it's just not where I'm supposed to be. And he's shown that multiple times to me. And so, while all that's happening, I thought about school a lot. I thought about going back to school as a seminary, but figured, that's something I could do later. But it just kept coming back and coming back. And so I said, you know what, I gotta give it a try. I went to school to test out, the classes, and I just looked at my friend and said, I have to be here. This is where I belong. And I applied and got in, and so I'm in school now, but I'm working my full-time job part-time, so eventually they'll replace me. But God's just been so faithful to provide along the way. And I think of John 6 where the people are following, the crowds are following Jesus, and they're just so amazed at what he's been doing, and I'm sure they're hungry. So he feeds them, and he meets them at their place of need, and plus some. And so how that applies to me is I think as I follow Jesus, he's saying, Kayla, just follow me, and I will meet your need today and every day plus some. And it's so true, and he's always been faithful, and he'll remain faithful. And so I'm just so thankful for what he's done so far, and I look forward to what else he's going to do.